Today, I'm gonna be teaching you how to not suck at drums. Hi guys, this is Josh from Count Vernon, and like Eli, I have no idea what I'm doing. Anyway, today I guess Eli wanted me to kind of share with you guys how not to suck at drums. Don't really know what to make of that, but basically I just compiled 5 tips that I would like to share with you guys, I guess. I don't know. I don't claim to be an expert on the drums. There are probably tons of other drummers who are better qualified than me to speak on this, but I guess these are just some of the things that I think would be helpful if you're starting to learn the drums, or I guess just interested in learning the drums. These are always just some tips that I remind myself of whenever I'm thinking about drums or practicing the drums. Okay, and sorry if I'm really awkward in front of the camera. I've never really done this kind of vlog thing before, so yeah. Okay, so tip number 1, tuning. I guess before you even start playing the drums, so it's important to make sure and think about whether your drums actually sound good, whether they're tuned and they sound the way you like them to, especially when you're playing live or even when you're tracking or recording in a studio. I think it's super important. A basic rule of thumb would be, when you're tuning, make sure that all your tension rods around your drums, be it the snare or the toms or your kick, make sure that they're all tightened equally. So an easy way to do that, or to check whether they're all tightened equally, is to basically unscrew them all until they're super loose, and then what you want to do is hand screw each of them to the best of your ability. After that, you can slowly start using your drum key to tune them equally. Hit each side of the tension rod around the drums to just make sure that they sound the same. Then you can adjust accordingly. Yeah, and I guess one thing to keep in mind is that tuning kind of takes practice. It takes time to listen how tuning each tension rod affects the drum differently. Another one tip that I would have for tuning is to invest in moon gel or gaffer tape, or even snare weights if you've ever heard of one. Basically what they do is they kind of dampen the sound of your drums and gives it a punchier sound, and it kind of diminishes the higher overtones that you might hear if you haven't tuned it properly. I have some here with me. They look like this. They come in blue as well. Some people just use gaffer tape, and I think that's fine as well. Personally, I just find it so much easier to just invest in some moon gel, because you can keep reusing it as well. Now on to tip number 2, practice makes perfect. This is quite cheesy and it's often overstated, but I think that it's really super important in your progression as a drummer. Once you've reached a certain point in ability in your drumming, it can be very comfortable to stay at that level, but I think to really push yourself and to take it to the next level requires a lot of practice and consistency that can be really difficult at times to kind of break that plateau that you're in. And one way to practice, I think, would be to practice your rudiments, which are basically the scales of your guitar or piano. They're kind of the building blocks of drum grooves and drum fills. It's something that I clearly have to devote more time to, and I think that if you're starting out on the drums, or if you've been playing the drums for a while, it's always good and important, your single strokes, your double strokes, your triplets, your flams, your paradiddles. I know it can get very dreary just practicing rudiments all the times, and the reason why we fall in love with the drums in the first place isn't because of all these rudiments, but once you master a rudiment, it can really take your drumming and your skill set to the next level. These rudiments are something that we use in our playing so often, but without us ever realizing it. I find it helpful to kind of use these rudiments when I'm playing to songs or things like that. Trying to think about how I can incorporate rudiments into my grooves or my fills. I think another way to help with the application of rudiments would be to watch YouTube tutorials on how the rudiments are used in different fills or grooves in songs. Even on Instagram nowadays, there are so many Insta drummers posting short videos on the fill of the day or the fills that they use. And I think watching and spending some time learning these different grooves and fills that are being used actually helps your playing and also helps you practice your rudiments without you even knowing. And also just a tip, sometimes when I can't hack these difficult rudiments or drum fills, I like to break down and slow down how these fills are being played. I would just use a metronome and like play these fills and rudiments at a slower tempo and then slowly increase the tempo as I get better and better. Start slow and then slowly work your way up. Tip number 3, warming up. So drumming is such a physical activity, and just like sports and athletes, they always have to like warm up their muscles before they engage in their sports and exercise. If you just go straight into it, like you're gonna get like cramps and stuff in your arms and in your legs, and it's really not gonna be fun. I remember there have been so many times where I will be playing a set, and after playing fast songs or like songs that have lots of 16th notes in them, I'll get these like really bad cramps, and it would just be so terrible because you're like trying not to mess up and trying to like play according to the tempo still, but your arms are just like dying, they're just dead. So how I counter that normally is to just do some stretches before I hop on the kit, and also practice some rudiments whilst I'm on the kit just before I start playing. There are 2 stretches that I usually like to do. One would be to hold my 2 drumsticks with both hands like that, and then I would kind of twist my arm like that and then just stretch it, and then I'll do it for the other side as well, and then after that I'll do both sides. And then the other stretch would be to, well, I guess you can do it with 1 stick, but usually I like to do it with 2 because I feel like the effect is a bit better. So I would put my 2 sticks like that, then after that I would just do this, and I'll do that for about like 20 seconds on this arm and then 20 seconds on the other arm. So those are the 2 stretches that I would do right before I hop on the kit. And so after I'm done with those stretches, I would normally do some rudiments. I would do 4 paradiddles and then 4 double paradiddles, 4 more triple paradiddles, and then 4 paradiddle diddles, and then 4 6-stroke rolls. And then I'll just do that in reverse and then keep on going and do it until I feel like warmed up and ready. I will normally do it like for about like normally 5 minutes because you know you don't have as much time when you're like doing sound check and stuff. So I can't find my drum pad right now, but basically the exercise would look like this. And then after that, I would just go faster and faster. Tip number 4, listen to the other instruments that you're playing with when coming up with parts or even when playing with other musicians. It's always important to think and have a listen to what each instrument is playing. For example, the bass, because the bass and the drums makes up the rhythm section of the music. What I would normally do when playing with Nick, who's our thick, low end, I would kind of like look at him and talk to him about like what he's playing and tell him what I'm playing. We would see how we would complement each other. For example, if he's planting his notes on 1 and 3, I would plant my kick drum on 1 and 3 as well. Yeah, basically we would try and figure out how we can play together instead of playing against each other. This doesn't just apply to like the bass, but other instruments as well, like the guitars and like keyboards and things like that. And I think another aspect is have a listen to when the music gets busier and when the instruments start playing more notes, or when the instruments aren't playing as many notes. Kind of have a think about what it means to be overplaying or what it means to be underplaying, because there are certain times when you're required to play more notes, but there are times when that can be a bit too overbearing if you're playing too much and the music's like really big already. Sometimes it would just be easier to just like plant kicks or something on the 4s, and that would just be enough for the music. This kind of thing I think really comes with experience and playing with other musicians as much as possible. That's when you kind of can get the feel of like, oh, this is where I'm supposed to play, or this is where I'm supposed to play less. Tip number 5, listen to a wide variety of genres and music in order to really be like a versatile and accomplished and complete drummer. There is really a lot of value in listening to a wide variety of genres and listening to how different genres and different kinds of music uses the drums and different percussive elements. You know, there are drummers who might be super sick and super like amazing in like a particular genre like metal or like pop punk. Super inspiring to like so many like drummers like myself as well. But I think there are so many different techniques out there that are used by so many different people who play different kinds of music and different genres. Like, it would really be such a waste not to at least learn about these different techniques as a drummer, because different kinds of genres like jazz, samba, metal, not only would you be able to appreciate the drums a lot more, but you would also be able to bring in these different like elements and techniques from these different genres into your playing. They will help you be more creative when you're on the drum set and when you're creating new music. And so those conclude my tips on how to not suck at drums. I guess I just hope this helps somebody, anybody, or maybe like if it's entertaining. I hope this like was interesting, and I hope that you continue to tune into our videos every Friday. Every Friday we're like dropping like new content and stuff, so give us a like and subscribe to this channel. Thanks guys.